What's going on, everybody? Dom here from Lensprotogo and Lens Rentals. Welcome back to the channel. So you just saw a whole bunch of images in photo and in video in black and white, or monochrome, whatever you want to call it. This colorless format leaves room for a greater emphasis on composition, finding natural contrast in things, and yes, of course, just gives every single thing you take in black and white just like that vintage, old-timey appeal. So black and white imagery all the way back then, when that was the only option, all the way up until now, is a super cool option and will always be a sought-after look. Black and white is never going out of style. So what are we doing today? You guessed it, probably because it's the title of the video, but also it could be because you're super smart. We're talking about monochrome sensors today. You may have seen here in front of me, I have a couple of monochrome only camera models. On the photo side, I have the Leica Q2 Monochrom, drop the E there for whatever reason. And on the video side here, I have the red Komodo 6K full spectrum monochrome edition. And just to get this part out of the way first, yes, both of these monochrome edition camera bodies only take monochromatic black and white imagery, no color information going into these cameras whatsoever. Or I guess coming out of these cameras. We'll talk about all that. But more to my point, you may be asking, what is the point of that? Isn't that totally unnecessary? Can't you just use the regular version of each one of those and drop the color out of the image in post afterwards? Was it really necessary to roll out a whole monochrome edition of each one of these already pretty costly cameras? Well, it might make you feel better, or honestly not, to find out that these cameras actually do have entirely redesigned sensors that basically kind of just drop the color processing hardware. And this is going to aid this monochromatic imaging in a couple of different ways. And each manufacturer kind of has their own stance and insights on this. And I am actively trying to figure this out. Like, there is definitely going to be a lot to weed out between what is just marketing and what is actually a really cool innovation. I've had the chance to shoot on these two camera bodies just briefly over the past couple of days, but that's kind of where this video comes in. In this process, I really wanted to reach out to our YouTube community and see how you all feel about this technology. Is there some real cutting edge, useful stuff that we are breaking through to here, or are we just giving people another thing to wave their wallets at? So anyways, to try and figure that out, we're just gonna chat about these cameras real quick, how they are different than their base models, maybe do some quick chart tests, quick side-by-sides, comparison and all that, maybe talk some color theory. It's gonna be so much fun. So let's just jump right in and start this conversation with this monochrome Komodo. Just taking a look at the Komodo first, nothing really different going on the outside here, other than instead of Komodo 6K, we got a nice big bold monochrome on this bottom lip here. But take that body cap off now, and honestly, this was really cool to see. This reddish kind of muddied rainbow color going on here rather than the base Komodo's teal green looking sort of hue. Super duper cool just to see the difference there. Also, the circuitry on the edge of the monochrome sensor is a lot more apparent there. It's got this like big silver border, and you can really see it's like chip elements in there. The wafer, as they call it. And speaking of wafers, the idea here, according to Jared Land, founder of Red, but this also lines up with Aries thinking while developing their monochrome Alexa model. But anyways, by removing the hardware in the sensor that was previously dedicated to filtering out specific unique color values, this allows this imager to take on a ton more light, according to Red, making it twice as light sensitive as the baseline Komodo 6K. So like, you've got to consider that there are color filters built into this baseline 6K that's programmed to process color information. But on the flip side of that, there's actually a lot of rich luminance information that's actually being cut out from the imager by doing this. Color information, yes, but color information that could be aiding how the camera represents the tonality in the image. I know it's a little dense, but really cool. And as I understand, this new process is going to allow monochrome imagers to much more easily capture contrast and subtle differences in tonality, and also black values and shadow details to be represented much more accurately, which of course is a big deal for the black and white format. Classic Red, this Komodo is still in beta, but popping this thing on, some things are rearranged in here in the menu. Basically everything that had to do with color, like input LUTs, gamma curves and stuff, you're not going to see any of that. You see these RGB sliders are just defaulted off. So much more simplified, but again, I suppose that is part of the nature of black and white. And here are just some quick tests I did with this full spectrum Komodo monochrome. I mainly played with the contrast and highlight roll-off settings here. And of course, afterwards, I had to bring in a regular Komodo 6K to see if there's any possible way I could get that color image back to the tonality that this monochrome image achieved. Okay, cool, but before we wrap up, of course, I have to talk about the photo side of things. I was lucky enough to get my hands on this Leica Q2 Monochrom and also be able to shoot it up against and just physically compare it to the regular Q2. Starting on the physical level again, same exact form factor, size, and layout and everything, but Leica giving the Monochrom their own flair. They dropped that signature red dot on the front face of the body, and also now every point of color that was previously on the Q2 is now just muted out into either gray or white. It definitely made the choice to put no color on the outside of this camera, clearly because there's no color going on the inside of this camera. Also, the Monochrome's black finish is a more matte black compared to the glossy black of the original Q2. Gotta say, it is a really lovely looking camera. The Q2 was already a nice looking camera, and this one is just more serious looking, a little bit more luxury looking with the matte finish. And just popping it on and shooting it, I already know I'm going to love this because I already love the regular Q2, which I've been known to switch into black and white or just drop the color out in post anyways and get a black and white image out of that. So I'm pretty much primed to love the Q2 Monochrome already. So Leica's vision for the Q2 Monochrome and the couple of other bodies they've made monochrome versions of now. Anyways, that thinking is pretty similar to the other manufacturers we've seen roll out monochrome cameras. Ditch the color filter array in front of the sensor, and now compared to its chromatic counterparts, that's what Leica calls it, I'm not even kidding, the monochrome will be able to take on a much greater spectrum of light. And Leica boasts that this is going to help the Q2 capture a significantly broader dynamic range and perform really well in low light, boasting extremely low image noise up to 100,000 ISO. That's one area where the original Q2 fell short, and I really wish I could pop this lens off and see the sensor like we were able to do with the Komodo, but it just won't come off as hard as I try, you know? So weird, but I would have to imagine that by eye it definitely looks different than the color version of the Q2. But more to the point, if there's no color filtering going on behind the lens in front of the sensor, then Leica said, what if we experimented with putting those color filters in front of the lens now? Leica's rolled out these color filters for the Q2 Monochrome, and if you're thinking, that seems similar to what I used to do shooting black and white film back in the day, you're exactly right. But if you're not familiar with this concept, you may be asking, why put colored filters in front of a camera that's not dealing with color in the first place? Well, it is dealing with color. Considering that white light kind of contains all colors at once, but is also just looks like white light, it's extremely confusing. Anyways, ipso facto, pop one of these color filters in front of the camera, that is actually going to affect the tonality you get from isolating different parts of the color spectrum. The yellow filter should theoretically help darken skies while slightly lifting yellow and red values. This orange filter should do what the yellow one does, but just a lot more intensely. And the green filter is, of course, going to significantly lighten any green areas that may slip into shadow areas too easy in like an unwanted way. You might use the green for some woodsy, really foliage heavy stuff where you still want values from where those light greens really kind of like slip into those dark shadowy greens. But also a note about this one, these are each going to cut out a slight bit of exposure, almost like an ND, and this green one is going to take out the most out of the three. So of course, I had to do a quick chart test with these three color filters. You can especially tell when I just did a close-up on this color chart. And of course, I also had to butt this monochrome Q2 up with the regular version of the Q2 just out of curiosity, and same thing. I'm gonna see if I can edit it to get it to match the tonality as the Q2 monochrome shots. Alright everybody, that is pretty much going to do it on this video, chatting about these monochrome camera sensors. And honestly, having had the chance to shoot a monochrome sensor now on the photo side and on the video side, I'm a bit divided as to how I feel. So like here's my take. Here's my shtick. I suppose this all started because there were some high-level creators out there. Let's just say it's Roger Deakins, because I have a photo of him in my office. Not creepy or anything. Let's say Deakins says the tools that are available in front of me aren't enough to achieve what I want to achieve. And then the manufacturers being in this position where it's like, well, we're in this unique opportunity to give creators what they need to bring their art to the next level. travel and yada yada, right? And of course, there's a part of me that hears that and is like, come on. We've heard this back and forth before with resolutions and IMAX and image size, frames per second. It's a different version of the same discussion we keep having. But at the end of the day, it really seems like there were professionals who really did ask for this, and now we are here in real life with these products that are totally available, purchasable, shootable. But anyways, that was the real reason I wanted to take this video out, to have you just join me figuring out whether this is technology that was worth doing or whether it's just a bunch of hoopla. So now I really just wanted to open this discussion up to you and encourage you to drop a comment in the comment section. I'm really curious to hear what you have to say. Is this all totally unnecessary? Should Arri and Red focus on developing technologies that would help like the more average video shooter, the layperson? If you had any questions whatsoever about either of these camera bodies, let me know in the comment section below. And also, of course, if you want to get your hands on either this Red monochrome or this awesome Leica Q2 monochrome, links to all the gear featured in this video will be in the description below, or at the very least, we're waiting for your response to this video. Chime in, let us know, and with that, that is truly gonna do it for this video. I know it's had like 6 outros now. If you liked this video, make sure to hit that like button. If you're not already subscribed, by hitting that subscribe button, and if you haven't done this yet, go ahead and hit that little bell button that's next to the subscribe button. That will keep you in the loop whenever we post new content, which is every week. So people, sometimes things really are just as simple as black and white. So we'll see you in the next one.